All right. Hello, hello, hello. What's up? Hope you're having a good Saturday, a good weekend, and if you're watching this some other time, just hope you're having a good day. So, today we have a super special lesson for you. I know I say that every time, but this time I really mean it because we are going to talk to you about the future. So it's a good time for this lesson because we just started a new year, and I think many of us are thinking about the future, the things that we want to do, the things that we're planning. So it's very relevant for this time of year. And if you are joining us, please in the chat say hello. Let me know where you're joining us from. Juan, hello, good to have you here. Isabella, Shahen, Jace, hello. Denisa from Romania, excellent. We have people from all over the world. Good to have you guys here. Again, today we're going to talk about right here, the future. And I know what you might be thinking. Maybe you're thinking, well, the future, I know how to talk about the future, will be going to. I guarantee you, stick around. We are going to talk about some things that you probably haven't learned, and things that even if you have learned them, maybe you're not using them as often as you should because you just need more practice with it. So as we go through each of these parts, each part of this lesson, I am going to have you guys practice. I'm going to ask you to write sentences and talk about the future. Tell me about your future. Who else? Katya, Mohammed, great to have you guys. Long, hello, hello. If I miss some of your comments, I apologize, but I'm going to try and acknowledge these as we go through. So again, if you're just joining us, we are going to talk about the future. So let's begin. So first, I want to look at this right here, which is grammar, the grammar. And I know you're thinking, gosh, oh no, more grammar. I'm not going to get into the nitty bitty details of the grammar. I'm mostly going to talk to you about these different tenses and when we use them. So if we're talking about the future forms, right here, you can see them right along this side, there are 4 different forms: the simple future tense, the future continuous, the future perfect, the future perfect continuous. Those are the four forms that I'm going to go through each one and kind of tell you when to use them, and we'll practice using them. But we can also use, this is very important because we use these all the time right down here, we can use the simple present and the present continuous to talk about the future, and we use those all the time. So let's start talking about it. So, hello, Mohit, Pankaj, George, excellent, Nordine, great to have you guys here. Hope you're having a wonderful day. And if you're just joining us again, say what's up in the chat. And even if you're watching this later on, just write your name, tell me where you're from. We like hearing from you guys. So, first, let's start out with something a bit easy, which I think you guys are very familiar with, and that is the simple future form using will. All right, so when we're using will, you're just going to use the subject, will, plus the base verb. All right, and we use this all the time. For example, we use this, like the first one, to make predictions. Okay, like maybe we'll say, I think it'll rain tomorrow. And usually that prediction is about, maybe 50%. All right, we're not completely sure. We're talking about, a prediction, what we think will happen. I think it'll rain tomorrow. We also use this, and this is important right here, right? This one, a spontaneous decision. Now, I know that many times we'll ask questions and your choices will or be going to. When it's a spontaneous decision, you just want to use will. Will. So for example, I gave you that example. There's a knock on the door and you would say, I'll get it. All right, I will get it. because when you're using going to, we'll talk about that in just a moment. It's more of a plan, something you have decided to do. All right. Nobody knows that somebody's going to knock on the door, or maybe they don't know that the phone is going to ring. It's a spontaneous decision, so we are going to use will. I'll get it. In the chat, in the comments, I have a question for you using will. I want you to tell me what will you do tomorrow? All right, let's practice using these already. So give me a sentence, a full sentence. All right, what will you do tomorrow? All right, what will you do tomorrow? Let everybody know. Let each other know what's going on in our lives. What will you do tomorrow? Tomorrow is Sunday. I'll teach a class tomorrow. All right, I will teach a class tomorrow on Sunday. Yes. So let us know. What will you do tomorrow? Let us know in the chat. Also, if you're watching this later, use the comments. Use it as a whiteboard. Participate. Answer these questions and just write your answers in the comments. What will you do tomorrow? It's also will is used right here to express want or willingness to do something. So somebody might tell you, yeah, I will help you with the project. All right, willingness to do this. I'll help you with the project. I'll help you with your homework. I'll help you do something. So we've got some good comments. Oh, Patricia, tomorrow I'll go to the beach. Excellent. I'll clean my home. Thanks for sharing. Yes, that's something we need to do as well. we need to clean our home. I'll go to the park to go jogging. I'll go to the park to go jogging. I will go shopping tomorrow. All right, excellent. I will go to study English education. Perfect. All right. So I think everybody kind of can grasp will. You use the subject, he, she, it, we, they, will plus the base verb. I will do something. The last one that I want to talk to you about, it's commonly used to refuse something. And this is when we use it with the negative will not. All right. He will not eat his vegetables. And when we contract that and shrink it down, will not becomes won't. All right. And if you want to use will not or won't, it's the same. It's interchangeable. It's up to you. Usually when speaking, a lot of people will just use contractions because it just makes things simpler. He won't eat his vegetables. And I put that sentence in there for me because that describes me, that, yeah, I don't eat as many vegetables as I should, but that is one of my New Year's resolutions. I'm hoping that I will eat more vegetables this year, all right? So those are the times that we use will, making predictions, spontaneous decisions, you're expressing some willingness, and maybe to refuse something. Talk about something you will not do. I won't do this, I won't do that, okay? So now let's look at be going to right here, okay? So we use be going to. Also, it's the same like will. You can make predictions, except with be going to, a slight difference. And again, this is just a very slight nuance, might be something that is a likely prediction, something that is likely to happen. I think it's going to rain tomorrow. Maybe around, you're 75% confident in that. You really think it's going to rain, a likely prediction. But for will and be going to, you can use both of them to make predictions. But we also use be going to talk about plans, all right? What are you going to do? Remember that with be going to, the only thing that is going to be conjugated is the verb to be. So with our subject, I am going to, he, she, it is going to, they are going to. That's the only thing we're going to conjugate, is the verb to be. So now let's practice this one, okay? So I want you to tell me, again, talk about plans, something that you're planning to do. It's not a spontaneous decision. I want you to tell me, what are you going to do next week? What are you going to do next week? And I want you to write that in the comments. All right. So tell me, what are you going to do next week? Talk about something that's a plan. All right. Something that you know is going to happen. And one thing I would say about will and be going to, that I think when most learners, they study these, I think most people have a tendency to just use will because it's easier to remember, and I think people tend to over rely on will. But it is good to switch it up. We talk about the future all the time. It's good to try and use both of them, especially that's why I want to go over these so you know when it's more appropriate to use will and when it's more appropriate to use be going to. So be going to, again, they're good to talk. It's good to talk about plans. For example, I'm going to the doctor's next week. That is a plan. You know it's going to happen. You are talking about something you are going to do. So again, if you're just joining us, we're talking about the future and how to use and discuss the future, and I'm asking you guys to practice with us. So if you guys are just joining us, hello and welcome, and write your responses in the comments. So I asked you, tell me, what are you going to do next week? And I want you to use that. Write a whole sentence. I'm going to go trekking next week. Excellent. Thank you. I'm going to study more next week. All right. Perfect. All right. I'm going to visit a friend in the countryside. Excellent. I'm going to go to the dentist. Nice. With the negative, somebody asked about the negative. You would just use with not. I am not going to. And the negative, I didn't put an example on there. It would go in between the verb to be and going to. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to the doctor's next week would be the negative form. The last thing I want to tell you about going to is the pronunciation tip, all right? When it's followed by the base verb, okay, it can be reduced to gonna. All right, so for example, look at that sentence. I'm going to the doctor's next week. We cannot reduce that going to because it's not followed by a verb. You can't say, I'm going to the doctor's. No. It has to be followed by a base verb if we want to reduce this when we're speaking. So you could say, I'm going to go to the doctor's, all right, and then reduce it. I'm going to go to the doctor's. Okay, so that is a pronunciation tip. We can reduce it with gonna. And remember, this is a pet peeve of mine, something that I'm always trying to tell people to do. This is for speaking, all right? Try not to write these reductions. This is just for speaking and for your listening practice. It's always good. Just use it for speaking if you can. So, excellent. Thank you guys for writing all those sentences. Now, let's continue and talk about getting into a little more advanced grammar. And because it's a little more advanced, it's not as common. So we use will and be going to all the time to talk about the future. But we also use some of these other forms like this, the future continuous. And we use the future continuous to talk about an unfinished action at some point in the future. And I tried to give you this, it's right down here, yes, right down there, that little arrow. So it gives you maybe a little bit of a visual that you have now, and then you have that future action marked with the X and those arrows kind of showing that it's continuous, okay? It's an unfinished action. And typically you're talking about, at some point, again, some point in the future. So for example, that first sentence, all right, I'll be doing my homework later this evening. I'll be doing my homework later this evening. In all of these examples, I'm giving you a time expression. So, and I'm giving you these time expressions so you know how it's connected. So I'll be doing my homework later this evening. Usually in a conversation, somebody might just ask you, what are you doing later? What are you doing later this evening? and then you would just respond with the future continuous. You don't have to say the time expression again. You would just say, I'll be doing my homework. Okay, so my question to you, and I want you guys to practice the future continuous. And when I mean future continuous, I didn't explain the grammar. I'm talking about, all right, you're using will, all right, plus the verb to be, all right, plus the base verb and the ing. I will be, all right. He is, all right. I'll be doing my homework. So, for example, future continuous with will, I will be what? All right, the verb, base verb plus the ing. I will be doing, I will be running, I will be dancing, I will be singing. So, in the chat, I have a question for you. What are you doing later this evening? What are you doing later this evening? That is your point in time. This evening, okay? What action is going to happen this evening at that time? All right. So write your answers in the chat. Again, somebody said, "I'll be keeping learning." Again, remember, you just want the base verb and the ing. I'll be learning English. Boom. All right, done. I'll be meeting my teacher this evening. Perfect. Excellent. Thank you, guys. So again, write it in the chat, share with us. Again, it's always good to practice. Here is another example. Again, I'm giving you the time expression this summer. So that is our point in the future. This summer, we'll be relaxing on a beach in Thailand. That is our continuous action. As much as I wish that were true, I can't say that we will be on a beach in Thailand this summer. I would like to be on a beach in Thailand this summer, but just as an example, I could say this summer we'll be relaxing on a beach in Thailand, and that could be a response to a question. You know, what are you doing this summer? Well, this summer we'll be relaxing on a beach in Thailand. Again, if we want to use the same, be going to with the future continuous, we're using the subject, the verb to be, going to, he is going to, and then again, we need that base verb to be, and then work and the ing. He is going to be working his butt off before leaving for vacation. So before leaving for vacation, that is our point in the future. All right, he is going to be working his butt off. So you need be going to plus the verb to be, all right, our helping verb, plus the base verb plus ing. I am going to be working. I am going to be running. I am going to be dancing. I am going to be teaching tomorrow night. I'm going to be teaching English tomorrow night. All right. So again, this is the future continuous, talking about some point in the future. All right. Excellent. So in summer, it will be raining in Thailand. Yeah. All right. Yes. All right. Maybe it will be raining in Thailand. I will be applying for a new job next week. Excellent. All right. They'll be moving into a new house this year. Great sentences. Thank you guys writing. This is good practice to be using this. So this is when we use the future continuous. Now let's look at the future perfect. Okay. I'm going to start out by telling you that these next two, the future perfect and the future perfect continuous, they're not super common. We don't use these forms all the time. I'm trying to think. If I had to think of the last time I used the future perfect or the future perfect continuous, it may have been last week or last month. It's not something that we use often, but it is good to learn because this will help us with your fluency as well as with listening. If you are listening to music or TV, it gives you a better understanding of the situation and what's happening. So we use the future perfect to talk about a completed action in the future. All right. And it is important to note right here, okay, it is often used with a time expression because when we're talking about the perfect tense, we're talking about some point. I like to say it has a relationship with another point, and that other point could be in the future, the past, but it's these two different time periods, two different points in time that have some sort of relationship. So this is often used with a time expression. So let's look at that first example sentence. By September, all right, she will have been with the company for 6 years. We're talking about a duration of time here, for 6 years. So by September, that's our point in the future. What will she have completed? She will have been with the company for 6 years. Okay? So you could say again, talk about some point in the future. What action will you have completed? All right? By this time, I will have done this. Okay? I will have, all right, plus the past participle. I will have done, I will have gone, I will have run. There's a lot of different options. So let's practice this again in the chat, or even if you're watching this later, write your answer in the comments, write to us, let us know. My question to you is by the end of this month, all right, by the end of this month, tell me something you will have done. Okay? By the end of this month, I will have what? Okay? Let me know. Write your answer. So I'm giving you your point in the future by the end of this month. All right? Now tell me about a future action that you will have completed between now and the end of this month. By the end of this month, I will have bought a car or something like that. Okay? There's a lot of different examples. Something that you will have completed. So tell me, write an example sentence in the comments, and I will look through them. So what will you have done by the end of this month? In that other sentence, for example, by the time, all right, we will have finished eating by the time you arrive. By the time is a adverb phrase of time, and when we see by the time, you should think perfect tense. All right, we're using the perfect tense. So in the future, by the time you arrive, that's our point in the future. Okay, well, what will have been completed? We will have finished eating by the time you arrive. We will have finished eating. That is our finished, our completed action. And the last one, if like the little book says, exam at the end of the week. Okay, so that is our point in time. All right, what will have been completed by then? I will have finished the book by then. All right, so if somebody says, oh, your exam's at the end of the week, well, I will have finished the book by then. I will have finished. It's going to be completed. So again, I was trying to give you those time expressions to make it a little easier to follow when we're talking about the action that will be completed in the future. So let's look and see some of your examples. Excellent. By the end of this lesson, I will have learned the future perfect continuous condition. Yes. Okay. By the end of this month, I will have finished my upper intermediate level. Perfect. By the end of this month, I will have finished enjoying my vacation. Okay. Good example sentence, Mike. I will have done all of my exams by the end of this month. Excellent. You guys, you got it. So you're talking about that point in the future, what will have been finished by that time. So again, this is great practice. Now, let's look at the next part, which is something that is probably even less commonly used, which is the future perfect continuous. I've talked to other English instructors, and you have this debate about, oh, should we even teach the future perfect continuous, because we never really use it. I do think it is worth teaching. I don't think people have to spend a ton of time on it, because again, it's not common. It's not common that we use this tense. But just so you know what it is, we use the future perfect tense is kind of like we are projecting ourselves into the future, and then we're looking back at some unfinished action, all right? So hopefully maybe this little timeline down there will help you out. So it's like you have your future action, that big X. we're projecting ourselves even further into the future, all right? And then we're kind of looking back at this unfinished action. So, for example, that first example sentence, when it gets to midnight, maybe I'm thinking to myself, like, gosh, when it gets to midnight, I will have been waiting here for 2 hours. So in this situation, I'm waiting for somebody, I'm waiting a long time, and I'm thinking, wow, when it gets to midnight, when it reaches midnight, that's the point that I'm projecting myself to. When it gets to midnight, what's the unfinished action? I will have been waiting here for 2 hours. And we're talking about an action again. It's continuous. It started in the past. It continued to this point in the future. And when it gets to that projected point, it will likely continue after that. So I will have been waiting. Another good one, and this is going to be our practice. So by 2019, okay, which is we're going to that point in the future, 2019, all right, I will have been studying English for 5 years. So my question to you is, by 2019, how long will you have been studying English? All right, how long will you have been studying English? Okay, you started in the past, you're studying now, and when it gets to 2019, hopefully many of you or all of you will still be studying and practicing and improving your English skills. So in the chat, use this one, see if you can practice using the future perfect continuous. By 2019, how long will you have been studying English? Again, very easy. I will have been studying English for how long? How many years? How many months? Give us a time. And even if you're watching this, again, like I said, later on, practice writing these sentences in the comments. Treat it like a piece of paper, like a whiteboard, and just write those comments in there and practice these sentences. It is good practice. So again, let me know how long you will have been studying English by 2019. I want to hear from you guys. We got some good, excellent. You guys have been writing some awesome example sentences. So by 2019, I will have been studying English for 3 years. Perfect. Excellent. By 2018, I will have been studying English for the rest of my life. Yes. Okay. Hey, practice makes perfect. It's always good to keep practicing. I think we are all lifelong learners. By 2019, I will have been studying my English skills for 1 day more because I'll be done practicing. All right. Well, maybe by 2015, I will have been calling my wife. Maybe it's something you're always doing. I will have been studying English for 3 months. Okay. So again, you're talking about that duration of time. Maybe 3 months. You think about years because 2019 is 12 months from now. You would have been studying longer than just 3 months because 3 months that would be October of this year. So it's always good. It's a little more difficult to kind of grasp the future perfect continuous, but it's good to practice. So let's talk about something that is more common when we're using the future tense, and that is the present simple. I know that when most of you think about the present simple tense, you're probably thinking about daily routines, habits, and yes, that's something that we use the simple present with those things that you do all the time. We also use it to talk about scheduled events, all right? To talk about scheduled events, there should be an S on the end of event there. So we use the simple present to talk about scheduled events. These are things that there is a schedule, there is a time, some sort of time frame involved, and we're talking about it, and we're using the simple present. So for example, look at that first example. Her plane arrives next Monday. Something that's very common. It is a scheduled event. The plane is arriving, next Monday. If you want to use the future tense will or be going to, it's fine. Her plane will arrive next Monday. That's okay. Her plane's going to arrive next Monday. That's fine as well. But we can also, and I think it's common to use the simple present when we're talking about these scheduled events. I'm trying to think why it's kind. I think it's just something that that we just, at least for me, that I kind of grew up with and developed. You get in the habit of using this. Her plane arrives next Monday. Also, again, the movie starts at 8 p.m. Okay, the movie starts at 8. The party is tomorrow night. We're talking about all these points in the future, but it is some sort of scheduled event, so we are going to use the simple present. Now, in the chat, what I want you to do, or in the comments, I want you to tell me about an event that is going to happen next week, and I want you to use the simple present. All right. Again, you're talking about an event. Okay, it could be a class, it could be maybe a train or a bus that you're getting on, or a party that you're going to. Use the simple present, write an example sentence, and talk about an event that is scheduled for sometime next week, next Monday, next Tuesday, next Wednesday, next Thursday, next Friday. Okay, so in the chat, practice using the simple present and talk about some scheduled event for next week. Again, this is very, very common. We use this all the time when we're talking about these events. The last thing I want to say about this is when we're talking about a scheduled event, it's usually in the near term. We're talking about something in the near future, either later that same day, either the next day or the next week, could be something in the same month, but you're typically talking about something in the near future when you're talking about this scheduled event. You're not going to talk about something 10, 20, 30 years that's going to happen. So it's commonly used when we're talking about that. So next Monday, school begins again. So exactly, yeah, school begins next Monday. Perfect. Excellent example sentence. So again, thank you guys. If you're joining us, we're talking about the future and different ways that we can talk about the future. So school begins next Monday. Thank you for sharing with us, Katya. Excellent. Let's look at this last one that I want to show you about, which we use quite regularly as well, and that is the present continuous. Again, we're talking about a continuous action. And we use the present continuous to talk about planned arrangements, all right, for a future time. So this is something in the future, and this is a planned arrangement. One thing that's different about this, I would say, is that when you're talking about a planned arrangement, it's usually someone's planned arrangement, okay? Something that someone has planned. So again, this is different from the simple present because we're talking about an event, all right? We're not talking about something that somebody is going to do because that would be their plans. We're talking about, with the simple present, an event that's going to take place, a party, a trip, or something like that. With the planned arrangements, with the present continuous, it's more of something that somebody's doing. So for example, he is leaving work early tomorrow. That is something that he has planned, all right? He's leaving work early tomorrow. If we use the simple present in that he leaves work early, that would make you think it's something he does every day. If we use the present continuous, all right, he's leaving work early, even if we take out tomorrow and say, yeah, he's leaving work early, it makes you think that, okay, it's something that's going to happen, but it's not something that's regular. It's not something that happens all the time. So he's leaving work early tomorrow. The same with that other one. I've given you that time expression to help it maybe make a little more sense. If we're talking about a business trip that is coming up, you could say, yeah, we're staying at a hotel. All right. We're staying at a hotel during next week's business trip. All right. Usually in a conversation, you already know the time that we're talking about. You're talking about a business trip in the future, a business trip next week. And somebody might ask, like, oh, well, where are you staying? We're staying at a hotel. You're talking about the trip that'll happen next week, but you're going to use the present continuous. We're staying at a hotel we're staying in a hotel during next week's business trip. And again, sticking with next week, maybe you're talking about your friend's wedding or something. You say next week they're getting married on a beach in Thailand. All right. It's winter. You know where my mind is right now. It is on a beach in Thailand. That would be nice. But if somebody's asking about your friend's wedding, they say, oh, where's the wedding? You say, oh, they're getting married on a beach. They're getting married on a beach. They're getting married on a beach in Thailand. Again, you're using the present continuous to talk about this planned arrangement in the future. Okay, this planned arrangement in the future. Some more example sentences from you guys. Excellent. We're leaving town. We're leaving town this next year. Yeah, that's great. That's a good example sentence. We're leaving town this next year. You are leaving. All right. You are heading out of town. So this is great. This is great practice. I appreciate all your comments. Let's do, if you joined us a little late, do a quick little review of what we talked about today. We started easy to talk about the when to use will, all right, which is to make predictions, spontaneous decision. That is the key one right there. That is definitely different than be going to. When you're talking about spontaneous decision, use will. We also use it to express want or willingness, or maybe to refuse something that we are not going to do or will not do. We won't do this. For be going to, we can also use it to make predictions that are more likely going to happen, but we'll also use it to talk about plans. Again, to something that you plan to do in the future. All right, I gave you that example sentence. Next week, I'm going to the doctor's. Okay. Future continuous, we're talking about an unfinished action at some point in the future. Okay. You're talking about some point in the future. I asked you guys what you will be doing later this evening, and you gave me some excellent responses. The future perfect is used to talk about a completed action in the future. Okay, so if we said, again, for example, by the time, when we see by the time, we think perfect tense. All right. We will have finished eating by the time you arrived. When you get there, what action is completed? You finished eating. The future perfect continuous, again, I said this is not very common. We don't use this as much because we're using it to project ourselves into the future and then look back at some unfinished action. And I asked you guys, by 2019, how long will you have been studying English? And you could have said, I will have been studying English for 5 years, 10 years, 2 years, 3 years, however long. And that is often used with a time expression. We use the future oftentimes to talk about scheduled events, things that are scheduled events in the near term. We could use the simple present to talk about these future events. And for the present continuous, we would use that to talk about planned arrangements that somebody might have. All right. So I said, he's leaving work early tomorrow. We're staying at a hotel. We're using the present continuous to talk about those future arrangements. I know this was a lot to go over today. I'm so happy you guys were able to join me today and participate. And like I said, hopefully, even if you're watching this later, I hope you were writing some of those sentences. It's always good to get practice and make it a more active lesson. So please, if you enjoyed this lesson, hit that like button, share it with your friends, your classmates, family members, anybody you know who is trying to improve their English skills. And as always, if you have other questions or comments that I wasn't able to get to, just write them in the comments section once the video is published, and I'll try and get back to you. And finally, check out our social media classes right down there: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and right here on YouTube. We're always putting up lessons to help you guys practice and improve your English skills. So Katya, Denisa, um, Dennis, Edmar, Adam, thank you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Adrian, great to have you here. Thanks so much for joining us. Patricia, Long, there's just so many of you in here right now. It's excellent. I'm so happy to see this class getting larger and larger and larger each week. So I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, a great day, and we will see you guys next time. So long.